Hey everybody, it's Daryl Akins from Anglers All, and today we're down at the Fly Tire Studio tying up a perdigon, the rusty nail perdigon. All right, in the vise here we have got a size 14 jig hook. It is a barbless 450 Umpqua X series. We've got a slotted copper bead coming in at 3.2 mil. So then we're gonna do a little matchstick body here, all the way to the hook bend, and we're gonna tie in some CDL. Coq de Leon. There we go. And we're going to pull it in, and we're going to make sure that we're right at the length of our body. I like to capture, wrap back to the end, and then back forward. It's a really good little durability trick there. If you're not happy, back it off. Make yourself happy. And I'm going to trim here. Now, I am going to point out that although I am very aware, not pointing it out all the time, I'm very self-conscious, very aware of my thread wraps because I don't want to overdo the body. So I did large spirals down to dress the hook, tie my tail in, and then kind of came over it with large spirals going back in. We're going to tie that tail in when we tie our tubing in. Not too concerned about tight wraps over this thing and building a body. We're going to get there via consolidation. So we're going to pull out some micro tubing in clear. And this will be our body and segmentation, and our thread will give us the color and the depth. I like to grab this right behind the bead where this dubbing is going to go, and then really get a good tight cinch on it, and then pull this super far out and thin, so when we tie this in, we've got very little material getting tied in on the hook shank. And then I'm going to wrap back up, and that's it. So I had really dedicated wraps on just down and up at the very end. Everything else was a looser spiral wrap. Still tight wraps, but just not very deliberate, if you will. So now that we have this all built, we're just going to wrap our body. A little trick here, or tip mostly, more than a trick. You pull this too tight and you're going to take away the ribbing that we're going to be afforded by this tube. So make the first couple spins around and take a look and see what your segmentation looks like and your body size looks like. And if it's just not enough, loosen up those wraps. You're probably just pulling too tight and you're going to minimize that segmentation. Cool thing here that everyone knows about on the midge side of the game is that you do the thread of the wire underbody with the tubing over it, and you get a really cool depth to your fly because of that clear tubing casting back down into the color of the thread or the underbody. Little bit of zap on the thread and wrap that over the collar area where we just cinched down our tubing, and we're going to finish up the tubing part with a little armor. I'm going to use some Solarez bone dry, and I'm going to wipe my brush off excessively. I do not want a lot of this. Too much, and we're going to take away from the segmentation of that tubing. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit on, and when I look back over it, if I feel there's too much, I'll take my finger and I can kind of quickly take some of that and either take it off or spread it around to where I still have some UV hitting that, but it's not entirely coating in one piece. It's going to sink in a little bit. And we're just going to do a quick zap. Not a lot, nice little thin shimmer of armor. All right. A little rusty brown ice dub to finish it off. We're going to do a little collar here. Nice tight dubbing rope. This isn't a very shaggy dubbing collar. We're going to do a nice tight rope, and we even may take the extra time to trim around it to make sure this collar stays nice and tight. This is going to be used a lot in contact nymphing, and the one thing we want to remember that in the contact nymphing game, resistance is our enemy. So if you have a collar with a bunch of frivolous pieces of material floating around or dubbing hanging out, that's just going to, at the end of the day, slow you down. So that's more or less why we want a nice tight collar here to help the fly get down like James Brown. We're going to whip, and then we're going to put it in our box. And we're going to go out tomorrow and we'll fish it. That is the rusty nail perdigon from local tire here in Colorado, Tim Drummond, developed on the Colorado. Tie some up and go fish them. Let us know how it goes.